Want to get to some breaking news now, because in just the last couple of minutes, we're learning a former Louisville police officer will receive 33 months in prison after his conviction related to the shooting death of Breonna Taylor.
What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. Like, share, subscribe, comment. IG tip top bottom video, and we're just gonna hop right into it. So today we will be talking about the case of Officer Hankison involved in the death of Breonna Taylor. So if you don't know who Breonna Taylor is, which you should at this point, but Breonna Taylor is somebody who is a victim of, we could say, police brutality, and who was killed on March 13th, 2020. So it was around the time of George Floyd, when, you know, the country was definitely in very much high tensions at the time, COVID, things of that sort. And it just, you know, wasn't a good time for race relations at the time. So just added to the file. So if you don't know, there was a supposed drug raid, and that was drug raid that was also a no-knock warrant that also, you know, led to the death of Miss Taylor. So they believed, the police did believe, that her ex-boyfriend was selling drugs when they decided to barge in to her apartment.
The focus of the police investigation on March 13th is not Taylor's apartment, but properties 10 miles away in West Louisville.
Louisville Metro Police!
Hands behind your back, boss.
We're executing a search warrant. Come out!
Where dozens of SWAT and police officers arrest an ex-boyfriend of Taylor's and his associates, and seize evidence including drugs. These officers are wearing their body cameras, and they carry out the raid safely and without incident. What the SWAT team doesn't know is that at this time, a hastily assembled team of narcotics officers is about to raid Taylor's home across town. They suspect her ex-boyfriend keeps cash or drugs there, but their intel is poor. They don't know she has a new boyfriend, and they think she lives alone.
One of her current boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, actually opened fire on the officers as they entered, later saying that he believed they were intruders. The two officers, Miles Cosgrove and Jonathan Madley, immediately returned fire and shot and killed Miss Taylor. Those two officers, who were also white, were never charged.
Inside, Taylor wakes up.
So it's a loud bang at the door. She pops up out of her sleep and scared her to death. Me too. Like, who is that?
Banged on the door. No response. Banged on it again. No response. At that point, we started announcing ourselves.
Whether the police announce themselves clearly enough is a critical issue in this story that we'll return to later on. Not knowing who's at the door this late, Walker grabs his licensed handgun.
Another knock at the door. She's like, who is it? Loud at the top of her lungs. No response. So I'm like, what the heck?
They rush to get dressed and walk toward the door.
We never even made it, like, mid-hallway. But as loud as we were screaming to say who it is, I know whoever would be on the other side of the door could hear us.
Outside, some of the police do hear Taylor.
I can hear somebody inside. I kept telling John, I can hear her.
But after knocking and waiting for around 45 seconds, they decided they've given her enough time to respond and rammed the door open.
The last time, I just said, let's just hit it. And that's when we did the, police search warrant.
We'll show here what the police and Walker describe seeing next.
And I hit it. After the third hit, it flew open. And that's when it hit the fan.
As we're coming to the door, like, comes off the hinges, like an explosion.
The officers now make a tactical mistake. Mattingly steps into the doorway and puts himself in what police describe as the fatal funnel, a position vulnerable to gunfire and hard to move from.
I could see down the hallway, and there's the male and a female, side by side, shoulder to shoulder. Almost like they were together.
The apartment is lit only by the breezeway light that's coming from behind Mattingly and the faint glare of the TV in Taylor's bedroom.
You can't see anybody, though. It was dark. There was no lights.
Thinking it's an intruder, Walker aims low, shoots once, and hits Mattingly in the thigh.
I feel like I aimed down, because I don't need to kill anybody. So I just let off one shot.
Mattingly immediately returns fire.
I got 4 rounds off, and it was like boom, 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 boom.
Then all of a sudden there's a whole lot of shots.
Mattingly fires 2 more rounds when he falls and takes cover. Almost at the same time, Cosgrove moves in and fires, stepping on Mattingly in the process. He has now also put himself in the fatal funnel, and although he's shooting, he appears to have no idea what's happening.
I see blinding, vivid, white light and blackness at the same time. I don't hear any gunfire at all, ever. And I did not have any pain sensation or any recollection that I'm firing.
He continues shooting blindly until he runs out of ammunition, a total of 16 rounds.
If you told me I didn't fire a gun, I'd be like, okay, I believe you.
In response to Walker's shot, Mattingly and Cosgrove together fire 4 shots into a chair, cupboards and a stove in the kitchen. 2 bullets go into the ceiling and pass through the living room in the apartment above, where the man, his 2-year-old daughter and babysitter waited. 3 more shots go into the living room wall to the right. And the officers fire 13 rounds down the hallway where Taylor and Walker stood. Taylor is shot 6 times on both sides of her body, in the abdomen and chest, her arm and leg, and twice in her foot. In all, these 2 officers fired 22 rounds in less than a minute. An FBI ballistics report found that both of them shot Taylor, and that one of the 16 rounds Cosgrove fired was the lethal bullet.
So the prosecutors argued that they had been justified in their actions. So who was actually getting charged, like I said, is Officer Hankison. So Officer Hankison used deadly force. He fired into a window in a sliding glass door covered by blinds during the raid and ultimately hit a neighboring apartment. So,
thinking they're under attack, some of the officers flee when they hear a pause in shooting.
There was a little bitty moment of no shots. I was like, here's the time to go. And then it all started up again.
We don't know the precise sequence of events, but Detective Hankison runs to the front.
I can hear the firing as I'm making the corner. I can see the flashes, the muzzle flashes.
But the only ones shooting are police. Even though all the curtains are drawn, Hankison blindly fires 5 bullets through the patio windows.
My only option was to return fire, and I did that to the muzzle flashes.
He moves and fires 5 more rounds through the bedroom window of Taylor's sister, who isn't home. 2 bullets fly over Walker and Taylor, but none hits them. The bullets that go into the living area pass over Taylor's sofa and kitchen table and smash her clock. 3 penetrate the wall and enter her neighbour's apartment. Those bullets also smash the kitchen table, hit a wall, and shatter the patio doors at the rear. A pregnant woman, her son and partner were home. Hankison has been charged with wantonly endangering their lives. In total, the police fire 32 bullets, penetrating almost every room in Taylor's apartment. They hit saucepans, cereal boxes, and smash into her shower. They puncture shoes, shatter cleaning equipment, and land in her sister's clothing. And, 3 minutes after police came to search her home, a fatally wounded Taylor is lying on the ground.
Obviously, basically the reason his actions was justified and the others' actions was justified because one, like I said, they were fired upon, and they just shot, somebody, they shot back and they ended up killing Miss Taylor. But his actions weren't justified because he actually, because he shot into something, that he just didn't see. He wasn't getting fired or anything. He just shot into something that he didn't see. And he also, hit another apartment and could have potentially injured somebody else being reckless. But what also made this case such a thing is because, like I said, of the no-knock warrant. So to start with, it says the warrant to raid Miss Taylor's apartment was based on shoddy surveillance. 3 officers were charged by federal prosecution with knowingly including false information in an affidavit to get a judge to approve the raid. One of them, Kelly Goodlett, pleaded guilty in 2022. The case against the 2 others, Joshua James and Kyle Meany, is still open. So this shows you right here basically how, the surveillance was bad. The information, one, that they said it was her former boyfriend and her current boyfriend happened to be there. So I would just assume that she really didn't talk to that man anymore. So they obviously weren't paying attention too much to who was going in and out of the apartment. And, this ended up getting somebody killed. So why the thing involved a no-knock warrant is because when the judge initially signed off on a warrant for Miss Taylor's apartment, the officers were later instructed to announce themselves. Whether they actually did it has long been in dispute.
None of Taylor's neighbours heard the officers announce. This apartment's patio door was open.
I was completely unaware that it was cops.
2 teenagers in this apartment heard a commotion, but didn't hear police announce through their open window, their mom said.
They told me that nothing was said, that they just beat on the door. I said, so y'all don't know if it was them? She was like, they didn't say nothing, they just beat on the door.
And the family who lived directly above Taylor also heard nothing.
Before the gunshots come out, did you hear anything?
Conversations or anything like that? People talking? No.
In their statements and in interviews with The Times, over a dozen neighbours say they did not hear the police. Attorney General Cameron's assertion rests on the accounts of police officers and a single witness, Aaron Sarpy, the man collecting his daughter that night and who saw the police when he came outside.
Because clearly, based on the actions for Kenneth Walker, it was a no-knock because he was expecting them to be intruders. If they had announced themselves, obviously he wouldn't have thought they were intruders. So he began firing at them because they didn't announce themselves, and this him firing at them because they didn't announce themselves ended up getting Miss Taylor killed. So that is why this, with the no-knock thing was a part of it. Now, why this also was an issue, because the Louisville Police Department had been in trouble for the past couple years, actually, because the legal proceedings stemming from Miss Taylor's killings, which brought intense scrutiny on the Louisville Metro Police Department, have been drawn out over years of a dramatic court battle. The case fueled months of protests across the country and in Louisville. The city's police chief was fired amidst the demonstrations. In a 2023 report by the Justice Department found the department has shown a pattern of discriminating against black people as well as a pattern of other abusive behavior. Investigators found instances of police officers subduing residents with neck restraints, chokeholds, and even dog attacks and using excessive and escalating force. The report also said the officers made unlawful stops and searches based on invalid warrants. So that shows you where the Louisville Police Department was at the time. And obviously, this was just another instance of them not doing their job all the way, and it ended up in the death of Miss Taylor. So all this, the case has been through some ups and downs because before in 2023, a judge declared already a mistrial in Mr. Hankison's trial on federal civil rights charges after juries failed to reach an unanimous verdict. He was previously acquitted of similar state charges.
A jury in Kentucky has found a former Louisville police officer guilty for violating Breonna Taylor's civil rights. Taylor was killed back in March of 2020 after police showed up to her apartment looking for evidence in a narcotics investigation. Police say they were targeting Taylor's ex-boyfriend who lived at a different address at the time. Prosecutors accused Officer Brett Hankison of shooting blindly into Taylor's apartment. However, Hankison was not charged in killing her. Taylor's family was understandably emotional after the verdict.
So we fast forward to basically about last week. Dillon, the assistant attorney general for the civil rights, asked the judge in the case, Ms. Jennings, to sentence Mr. Hankison to a single day in prison, essentially the brief time he had served when he was charged, and 3 years of supervised release.
And to face a serious sentence. The governor suggested that politics was involved in the Justice Department asking for that lower sentence. And part of the reasoning in that is that this is a departure. This is the Justice Department and federal government spending years to prosecute this former officer. This is the second trial that he faced. This first one ended up in a mistrial. This one ultimately, he was convicted on one of the 2 counts that he was facing. And many people noting that the prosecution team, when they filed this memo suggesting that lower sentence, the team that prosecuted him in this case, they did not sign this memo. Instead, it was political leadership that ultimately signed this memo. So a lot more to figure out, I really am curious to know how much of that conversation, how much of that 4.5 hours or so of the sentencing hearing was about the judge asking them about this decision.
So the request was intended to send a message that the department planned to abandon its long-standing efforts to address racial disparities in policing and to reorderate the Civil Rights Division to pursue President Trump's cultural war agenda at the expense of his founding mission of confronting race-based discrimination. So obviously, if you didn't get that, they tried to write in that he should only serve a day, which is total bullshit. So the judge didn't do that exactly. So what the judge ended up sentencing him to, she immediately took issue with the department's extraordinary sentencing request, but she also settled on 33 months, a punishment far short of the maximum sentence of life imprisonment allowable by law. The judge is supposed to be the fair one, so this makes sense, but I don't believe she was all the way fair like she wanted to be, because she obviously had some pressure put on her by the national government. I mean, obviously, she, didn't settle on one day and she decided to give him nearly 3 years. But he probably still should have got more time than he got. But she obviously knew that she couldn't get him an excessive amount of time because of the action that had transpired. But this is just another incident of this one very much so shoddy police work that ended up resulting in the death of Breonna Taylor. Now, a lot of things, obviously are blurred with these details, as if, respectfully, that is with a lot of police brutality killings, but no knock warrants and things of that sort. And, obviously lying on affidavits to get warrants is absolutely ridiculous. It's something that should be policed and handed down. But obviously, due to, Trump's policies, they might not get that in the city of Louisville. But we know this is obviously a higher up problem. And, what can we do much about it, besides, like protests like they did. So that's really all I got to say, though. This is a crazy shit. But that's all I got to say, though. Like, share, subscribe, comment. IG, TikTok, bottom video, and we out.